Hey guys, what's up? It's Jimmy, and today we're taking a look at my top 10 favorite platformer games. The platformer genre is easily my favorite type of video game. There's just something magical about these games. Whether it be the challenges they lay out for you or the feelings of adventure that they invoke, these games know what's up. Today we'll be taking a look at a list of my personal favorite platformer games. But before we begin, I have one rule for this list. One game per franchise. Otherwise, we all know what this list would look like. Anyway, let's get started. Good licensed games are hard to come by nowadays, but back in the 16-bit era, they were just as good as they were abundant, and that's because most of the best licenses went to companies that knew what they were doing. One of these companies was Capcom. Capcom made tons of licensed Disney games in the late 80s and early 90s, some examples being DuckTales, Goof Troop, and of course, Aladdin. Many people compare this version of Aladdin with the one made by Virgin, which used a very different play and art style. It's cool to know that it used animation cells from the original film, but I think the SNES one tops it in overall quality. There's just something so satisfying about bouncing off of an enemy's head in this game. You can really feel the weight of Aladdin upon impact. Aladdin also succeeds in making you feel like you're playing through the movie itself. In the beginning, it starts you off in the chase sequence in the start of the film, and in the end, Aladdin and Jasmine take that magical carpet ride together. I think what was great about this game and this era of gaming in general is that it was a platformer first and a licensed game second. It's not rushed and it's not complete trash. It's a great example of how licensed games should be handled, and hopefully we see a trend like this come back. Imagine a Frozen-themed platformer that was actually good on modern consoles. That would be amazing. I would buy 10 of those. What a kick-ass jingle for a kick-ass game. Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland is a remake of Kirby's Adventure for the NES. I made my stance on remakes clear before, and I'm pretty stingy about which ones I think are good, and this game is a remake done right. It keeps what the original did intact, but adds so much more of the modern Kirby elements, a lot of which were taken from Superstar. At least that's how I see it. All Kirby games are awfully similar to each other. I'm practically putting every Kirby game on this list just by including this one. I'm not sure why we keep coming back for more. I'd love to look into that at some point, but not right now. Kirby games are not very difficult, but I never find myself playing for the challenge, but rather the fun of it all. Getting to use my favorite copy abilities or discovering new ones is always exciting. That's something that goes for most Kirby games in general. You can't not smile while playing one. It's impossible, I tried. Between the music, cutesy enemies, and Kirby himself, your face might hurt if you play for too long. The new minigames added into this entry also make it the perfect way to kill some time. My personal favorite is the one that's like Kirby Air Ride. This entry was a particularly hard choice to make because I love all the Kirby games so much, but I think this one is my favorite of them all. Tiny Toon Adventures was an awesome show, and Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose is an equally awesome game. Like I said with Aladdin, this era of gaming was filled to the brim with some of the best licensed games of all time. Pretty interesting to see where that all shifted. You know, them being good and then utter crap. Maybe it's because the companies we see today as the giants of the industry were a lot smaller and probably desperate for some cash back in the day. This is a Konami game, and it definitely shows. It's hella fun and really hard too, like, super hard. It's a real test of reflexes and will keep you on your toes the entire time. Like most platformer games, each level has a unique theme to it. One of the levels is literally just a game of football. Brilliant. I think a lot of my love for this game comes from my love for the Tiny Toons show. There are lots of remixes of the opening theme strewn about the game, and despite the fact that it's the same song at the core, it sounds different each time. There's also a batch of original songs that sound great too. Between each level you can play a minigame for a chance at extra lives, and see a cutscene that keeps the original show's fourth wall breaking humor intact. Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose might just be the definition of a hidden gem. about time there was a Sega Genesis game on this list. Back in the early 90s, Sonic the Hedgehog made his debut. He was the first real competitor for Nintendo's Mario franchise, and Sega had finally done what seemed impossible. They tackled the plumber head on. So naturally, all the game developers tried to emulate their success. There were countless adorable or weird creatures and mascots that either caught on for a while or never took off from the start. Probably because they were awful. But then you have games like Rocket Knight Adventures, which kicked a ton of ass. Rocket Knight Adventures stars Sparkster, an armadillo and orphan of war, who must go and do a thing. I don't really know what the hell the plot is. I looked it up on Wikipedia and just... no. Stop. This game's quite inventive. Sparkster's main form of attack involves his sword, which can fire waves to attack enemies. You can also charge up and do a spin in place on the ground. If you release the charge in the air, Sparkster can use his jetpack to fly a short distance. This can be used to reach higher ground, special items, and even wall jump. It's also a great method of combat. The levels can really test your platforming abilities, but I never felt like any of my deaths were cheap deaths. It was always very inventive with what it had, and I really enjoyed that. Plus the music's kick-ass, so playing the levels over and over again after dying wasn't so bad after all. I've heard that there's a sequel game on the SNES simply titled Sparkster. I've never played it, but I heard it ain't all that special, so I have no desire to do so. I guess this is just one of those occasions where Genesis really does what Nintendo don't. If I had to describe Megaman X in one word, it'd be hyperactive. After years of mastering the Mega Man formula on the NES, Capcom took the Blue Bomber to the 16-bit Titan, the SNES. He was faster, stronger, and bluer, I guess. While the original games focused more on precision and solving challenges room by room, Mega Man X is a constant stream of platforming challenges. The classic series has specific rooms with specific requirements, whereas Mega Man X requires you to be on the ball at all times. In order to master the various enemies and obstacles the game throws at you, you need to feel the flow of the game. You need to be quick, you need to be smart, and most of all, you need to jump on walls a lot. The Mega Man series has always been known for its incredible music too. Mega Man X continues the trend by utilizing the expanded capabilities of the Super Nintendo. The music feels very powerful and fits the mood of the entire game. It gets your blood pumping and makes you want to jump right into the game and beat up a ton of stuff. And in Mega Man X there's a boatload of opportunities for that. Here's a game I'm excited to finally get a chance to ramble about. It's Gunman Clive, a platformer set in the Wild West, and a genius one at that. I've actually worked on a video about this game before, but I scrapped it halfway to being finished. The video sucked, but the game is great. Gunman Clive strips down platformer games to the essentials of the genre. It eliminates a lot of things that have become sorry excuses for challenge over the years. The level design can be quite intense at points, but it's never frustrating. The game does not have a life system. It does have a health bar, but if it didn't, the game wouldn't have any consequences for failing a challenge at all. When you lose all your health, you have to start the level over again. Death is quick, and you never feel like your time is being taken up for things to load or for cutscenes to start. It's a simple test of reflexes and skill, especially in duck mode. Yes, you can be a duck. Gunman Clive is like a mix of all the best platformer games, but mostly classic Mega Man. The art style is also very unique. While the game is a 2.5D platformer, and there are many of those, the models have textures to make them look hand-drawn, and it looks lovely. The most interesting thing about this game is that it was made entirely by one guy. It's quite impressive. Gunman Clive is $1.99 on Steam in the Nintendo 3DS eShop. That's less expensive than most of the food at McDonald's, and it's on par with some of the best platformer games of all time. And I repeat, it was made by one guy. Mind-blowing. Sonic games are like the lottery. You have a small chance of them being really good, and if you manage to get a lucky ticket, the experience ends up being amazing. The Sonic games of the last decade have been really hit or miss. Mostly miss. However, Sonic Generations is a beacon of hope for us all that one day he'll be great again. Released to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the series in 2011, Sonic Generations brings back the level design of classic 2D Sonic games and uses the high-speed action level design introduced in Sonic Unleashed, which is a hybrid of 2D and 3D platforming segments. The classic levels cut out a ton of the issues I had with the older games, and some of the best levels of that era get remade in this game. But it gets very interesting when you cross over into levels from the 3D era and see how they'd be in 2D side-scrolling format. The same goes for modern Sonic when he goes through the older levels. It's so exciting to blast through Chemical Plant Zone faster than I could have ever imagined. The modern half of the game is definitely my favorite half. It's a thrill ride from start to finish, like you're on a roller coaster. This game is also a sad reminder of how close Sonic Team was to perfection. They had literally mastered making Sonic work, and they went and messed it all up again with Lost World. It was such a disappointment, and Sonic Boom looks like it's gonna be a train wreck. Hopefully I'm proven wrong, but at least we'll always have Generations. In terms of quality, Donkey Kong Country 2 is easily the best of the three. In terms of me thinking it's super awesome and wanting to play it, then the original is the one for me. I spent countless summer and winter vacations up at my cousin's house just watching him and his friends play the Super Nintendo. Even though the games were almost 10 years old at the time, I thought they were incredible. I finally got to play one day, and the game we popped in was Donkey Kong Country. It was mind-blowing to see how real the characters looked. The GameCube was out at the time too. I didn't have one, but I saw all the commercials. By today's standards, everything still holds up, not just visually, but mechanically as well, which is something that most games from this era can't do so well. I think this is my favorite of the three just because of how beautiful it is. The worlds feel realistic, well, as realistic as a bird shooting coconuts and a gorilla wearing a tie can be. The environments feel like a real jungle. It's quite magical. The music also helps in creating a wonderful atmosphere for the game. As of late, Retro Studios has been making new Donkey Kong Country games. They've been really great to play and to look at, but there's something special about the original that will hold it up above all the others for me. It gives me such a warm feeling inside. It's probably nostalgia, or maybe it's gas. Regardless, Donkey Kong Country will have a soft spot in my heart forever. Retro revival is something very common in the indie community. As gaming moves on in the future, the people that grew up playing games are bound to end up making their own. People take inspiration from their experiences and interests when creating things, and the term was coined when more and more developers were making games with the ideals and appearances of 8 and 16-bit games. Shovel Knight is the latest result of this trend, and might just be the best one yet. It's hard to put everything Shovel Knight does right into words, because it's borderline perfection. The crisp visuals, the challenging but smart platforming action, the wide variety of weapons and armor, the bizarre secrets and cheat codes, the stellar soundtrack, and simple yet heartwarming story all blend together to make one of the most enjoyable games of the last few years. No matter how many times I died in this game, and trust me I died a lot, I never got upset. At least with the game. Each mistake was my own fault, and its proper method of punishment for death makes it so much more enjoyable to jump back into the action. There are no lives, only gold that you can lose and regain. That system alone makes it great, even without all the other amazing things I listed. Please support Shovel Knight. Hopefully its success as an indie game can wake up some of the big companies and get them on the right track again. You'll also have a blast playing the game, so that's a plus, right? Super Mario Galaxy was great, but its sequel is downright incredible. It kept everything that the original game did well intact and reworked a lot of its flaws. It made the map system much better and the hub world much more concise. Galaxy 2 also brought Yoshi into a 3D environment and gave him so many unique power-ups. Mario's power-up arsenal also got an update in this game. One of his new powers, the Cloud Suit, is one of my favorites for sure. I mean, look at how happy those clouds are. They're adorable. The Galaxy games are groundbreaking, as all the main series Mario games are. The original Super Mario Bros. Revolutionized the 2D platformer. Super Mario 64 set the standards for what 3D platforming can be, and the Galaxy games challenged those standards. The outer space setting and unique usage of gravity allows for very diverse level designs and segmented challenges. The orchestral soundtrack was a first for the series, and it was mind-blowing to hear such beautiful music after all these years. The motion controls implemented in the game were also really well done. They weren't the center of attention, but they were there and they felt very natural. These games prove that motion controls may have some potential for gaming's future, if done right. All my praises for Galaxy 2 can be attributed to its predecessor, but when it comes down to which one I prefer, Galaxy 2 takes the cake by the slightest of margins. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is definitely my favorite platformer game of all time. Hello again, thanks so much for sticking to the end of this video. Check out the videos on screen right now if you like this one, and if you're new here, please subscribe. It'd mean a lot to me, and you can keep up with all my new videos that way. Liking the video is appreciated as well, and be sure to let me know which platformer games are your favorites down in the comments. I'm always looking for new ones to play, and I'd be happy to have some suggestions. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter too. I'm always keeping you all in the loop about the things I'm playing and working on. Thanks again, and I will see you guys next time with more videos.